All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to Ivan Oberon's Money Matters. Today is Thursday, October 9th, and so we're getting closer and closer to Halloween, and I'm excited because we're getting closer to a very busy month that November is going to prove to be. We've got at least two expos and networking events put together for November. REI Expo is November 1st and 2nd here in Anaheim, California. And the AAPL conference in Las Vegas, Nevada, will be there from November 8th through the 12th. So if you guys want to check anything else out about those, go to cdcexpos.com or cdcconferences.com. Obviously, if you're listening to this podcast and it's beyond that time, disregard this message. But if you do want to get a discount, go to type in promo code CDC14 when you register for the REI Expo. We'll be exhibiting at both events, and I will be speaking at the AAPL conference in Vegas. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about getting to see some of my friends and other fellow real estate investors that I don't get to see very often. And we had a great networking event last night. What was our Coast to Coast RIA event? And we had Donnie Nips from CEO Space. We had AJ Mara from More Financial. We had Daniel Green, who's one of the best CPAs and tax advisors, especially for real estate investors. So if you need one, consider this your recommendation, and I can put you in direct contact with Daniel Green. If you need, you can email me, and I'd be happy to make that introduction. We had Jack, who's a business developer. And he goes in and he takes businesses who are malperforming, and he works with their owners and their staff to work in better harmony together and make them more profitable. We had Candace and Omar from White Ridge Developments and Avatar Construction. We had Leo Clark, who's an incredibly successful real estate investor. Also, does a lot of development. He buys land and builds houses on them, parcels it out, and builds a couple houses on them and flips them. So, and I'm saying these things just because I'm going to talk about what a mastermind group is a little bit later, or not necessarily what it is, but just the power of a mastermind group. And we really had an awesome event. CEO Space does a thing called Snap networking, which is really awesome. It was very effective, and takes actually going to a networking meeting to a whole new level, because you actually get to understand how you can add value to others and let them know how they can add value to you. And it got to, Pete and Scott aren't on this right now, so I get to say how they fumbled through their 30-second elevator pitch or spiel or commercial, whatever you want to call it. So if you don't have that put together yet, I'm going to admonish you right now. Make sure that you understand who you are, what you're doing, where you want to go, what you need, and you put together that 30-second elevator commercial for when you go to networking events or go anywhere else. But anyway, to get going to the topic today, we're going to discuss the 30 major causes of failure in life. Really, when you talk about life, I'm referring to a business. I'm referring to your aspirations, your goals, your dreams, your family, and the 30 major causes that have been identified for failure. And I certainly didn't come up with these things, but I do read a lot of books and I study successful people, and they go out there. That's the beauty of it, is they do most of the research for us, and we just have to glean from their experiences and from their expertise and from what sometimes is decades of study and research by them, and they make it available to us so that we can improve ourselves, so we can better ourselves. And when I first kind of went through these, the purpose of tonight, we're gonna get really real tonight. Okay, that's gonna be the only way that you're gonna get the most out of tonight, is we're gonna get real. And one of the things that I'm gonna admonish you to do is actually take notes. Okay, write these down. We're gonna go through them fairly quickly, because we only have an hour, and who knows, I might end up going into breaking this up into 2 sessions just because 30 is quite a bit, and I might spend a little bit more time on some than others. But the purpose of this is going to be, once you see the 30 and know the 30, is going to be to take an introspective look at yourself to see which ones of these you're guilty of, or which ones of them you're suffering from. And that is the only way that you're going to understand, what you're dealing with, what you're looking at, and how you can correct it so that you can break through whatever those barriers or those plateaus or those failures are that you continue to have. And I had to get real with myself too and identify many of them where I was lacking and I am lacking. And if you're brave enough, the idea is also to get somebody who's an honest third party to also analyze you on these. And man, that can be really tough. So, but it's gonna be for your own good, I promise you. And for those of you listening to the podcast, this is Ivan Oberon. I am the private lender and investor consultant to all real estate investors, and I'm a real estate investor myself. You can reach me at ivan@nreinsurance.com if you have any questions about that. And we should probably do a podcast on how to create a good 30-second commercial. But let's get right into it, guys. All right, so again, make notes. Understand how many of these are actually holding you back. And this is being recorded, so obviously if you miss any by any chance for any reason, which I don't think you will, you can come back and listen to this and go through the slides again and pause them and make sure you get them all. But I came across this quote also, which really kind of hits you square between the eyes. Right? I told you we're going to get real tonight, and I'm going to read it, and I want you guys to read it also and really take it in and analyze where you are right now. And the quote is, "The actual capital value of your brains may be determined by the amount of income you can produce." And that really made me think about my life and the lives of colleagues around me and where we've been in life and where we've gone to. And that's really kind of like, man, if the capital value of my brains can be determined by the amount of income that I can produce, that means that my ability to produce and to generate is really stored within my brain, right? And if for whatever reason it's by this definition, my brain's not very valuable right now, then I understand that there has to be a change made, that something has to happen within me. I have to do something. I have to understand what blocks there are within my brain, because obviously there are. If you're stuck at 30,000 a year, 50,000 a year, 70,000 a year, and you've been stuck there there's something going on in our brains to prevent that from happening. And you have to know how to unlock those things. And one of those things is by understanding, okay, well, what are the failure points? What have been studied and proven to be certain failure points for people over time? See if that applies to you and take changes or steps to correct it. Number one thing, or these aren't in any particular order, okay? And again, I didn't come up with these, much smarter guys than I did, but I did put them together and presenting them to you because I think they're valuable. So, unfavorable hereditary background. Okay, and I put this one out there first because I've heard a lot of people that complain and that use things like, where they grew up or how they grew up or what kind of, place they grew up in, or, they didn't come from a place that taught them anything and whatever. So they kind of use as an excuse to their heritage, right? There's nothing really that you can do for a person like that, where they come from, or let's just say that because of their heritage, they just have a deficiency in their brain power. There's not a lot that you can do unless they observe that that's one of their limitations and work to overcome that. And this might be one of the most difficult things to overcome. But once you understand that, yes, you came from that, and yes, you have that background, but you can take steps to change it. You can take steps to quit using it as an excuse and as a crutch. It won't be one of the 30 things that leads to your failure. Number two, a lack of a well-defined purpose in life. How many people do you know like this? I've known many. I've been there myself, not really knowing where I want to be, what I want to be when I grow up, what my real purpose in life is. And there's really no hope for success for the person who doesn't have a central purpose, a definite chief aim, where to go. And probably 98% of people out there don't have such an aim. And it's, maybe it's because of the third. And that's a lack of ambition to aim above mediocrity. And again, you analyze your life, you analyze yourself, and maybe you're not guilty of this right now, but you got to be wary of it and know that, well, maybe you can kind of slip into it, right? You can slip, your ambition and your drive can kind of wean at times, depending on what's going on in your life and your day and your week. I haven't been feeling very well this week. It's like I haven't gotten sick, but I don't really feel well enough to work out. I'm just kind of like, my head hurts, and it's just kind of like, man, my ambition is just it's kind of seems like it's being drained. And there's a quote that goes along with this one, and that I found was very very interesting. It says, "We offer no hope for the person who is so indifferent as not to want to get ahead in life, and who is not willing to pay the price." There's no hope. The price for success is paid in advance, guys. You got to put in the work, and you have to have ambition. And if really the lack of ambition, according to this quote, is that you're just indifferent about wanting to get ahead in life. You don't really want to be where you're at, but you're not really willing to put in the time and the energy towards that chief aim, towards that defined purpose in life. And I think that number two kind of adds to number three, right? If you haven't defined that purpose in life, then your ambition towards anything is going to be tough to generate, to create, and to have, right? Because you don't have a purpose yet. So you have to go find that purpose. And that's another great thing about putting together that 30-second elevator speech. Because you have to sit there and think, what do I do? Where am I? Who am I? What is it that I'm going after? If I have to put it together in a concise and clear manner so that I can tell people and engage them and hook them real quick, if all I got is 30 seconds, 45 seconds of their time, what does that look like? And if you don't have a defined purpose, followed by ambition and excitement and motivation, it's going to be very difficult for you to put that together. So that's a good exercise for you guys to do. And in fact, anybody that's on here who wants to take me as on a challenge, before we get off this one, I'll be happy to share mine with you, just so you have an example. But I'm challenging you guys informally. Do one, record it, or don't even record it. Do one and call me and show it to me, or say it to me. Break out of that mold. Break out of your comfort zone, or record it if you don't want to, and send me the recording so I can listen to it. See how you do. All right. Number 4, insufficient education. Now, this one is great. Okay. And the reason I say this one is great is because anything that you need to know, any skill that you need to get yourself to that next level, to where you want to go, can be learned. Any business skill, any extra thing that you need to know, any specialized knowledge that you need to acquire to get yourself to that next level, can be learned. So this one's easy. It can be learned through books, through audio cassettes, not cassettes. I'm listening to some old audios, right? where they still reference cassettes. Just audios, MP3s. You can go to seminars. You can go to all kinds of different things to increase your education. And the reality is that men are paid not merely for what they know, but more particularly for what they do with that which they know, right? Which goes back to defined purpose and ambition. But if you don't have the sufficient education, well, go get it. That's okay. And if you're guilty of this one because something's holding you back because you don't know what it is, go learn it. Figure it out. If it's going to cost you money, you don't have it yet, well, guess what? Start budgeting for it. I have several different accounts that I set up. Okay, and one of those accounts is my financial education account, and I put a little bit of money aside, and this financial education account, and it grows. And when there's a bigger thing that I want to go to, that I want to attend, that's going to cost me more money, I go to that account. If it's little things like I bought a $14 audiobook this week. That's not a big deal. But sometimes some seminars can be kind of costly. So create a separate account, just like you have your financial freedom account, just like you would have a well, now this is a whole different lesson, but your FFA and your LTSS, your long-term savings for spending account, so that you can start, setting stuff aside for vacations and for different things that you want to do. All right. Number 5. Man, sometimes I just feel like I have so much to share with you guys. Lack of self-discipline. Right? And discipline comes through self-control. And that means that you must control all negative qualities in your life. Okay, your thoughts, your actions, your habits. And before you can control those conditions, you must first control yourself. You have to learn self-mastery. And it's one of the hardest jobs that you'll probably ever tackle. And I deal with this a lot with people. And I have a background in martial arts, and I have a background in bodybuilding. And there's a lot of discipline. And so I almost have an advantage there in some cases, or in some ways, because you have to have discipline. You have to have discipline to portion your meals and to food and to prepare your meals before you go traveling places, to deny yourself when you go places with people, and to do all these different things. I mean, I was at a restaurant last night, and I have my power bag with my laptop and everything in there, and the back of it's filled with different types of food. So here's everybody ordering all this stuff, and I pull out a bag of chicken and a bag of spinach, and it's, man, you don't think that other food smelled better? Sure it did, but it's self-discipline towards that particular goal that I have. And it's the same thing with whatever you do in life. And self-discipline, that's something that we have to work on all the time. I'm guilty of this myself, because I wander sometimes throughout the day. I work from my home office, and it's got its plus perks and it's got its drawbacks, right? I guess I got a lot of distractions here that I don't typically have when I'm working in an actual office. So you gotta practice self-discipline. Ill health. Okay. And I know sometimes people get sick and different things happen. And what I'm really talking about ill health is people who are chronically ill or have some kind of ill health. And there's really no way to enjoy outstanding success without good health. And the reason that I thought this one was important is because there's a great majority of people who suffer from ill health because of their own habits and their own actions, like overeating foods that are not conducive to their health, like wrong habits of thought that give expression to negative things into their life, right? Not controlling those things, not taking every thought captive for the right thoughts and for the right person, right? The wrong use and indulgence in different things in life. Sex, for example, is something that is used in many wrong ways and overindulged in, and it can steer you in the wrong direction. Same thing with consumption of alcohol, with drugs, all these different things that people get themselves into that demotivate them, that derail them and their health. All right. So number 7, unfavorable environmental influences during childhood. Okay, that's kind of a a mouthful, right? But it's said that as the twig is bent, so shall the tree grow, right? And so most people who have these negative habits or thoughts, or even criminal behavior, end up in that space. It's because they have associated themselves inappropriately in childhood, or they had inappropriate associations in childhood, whether it was their fault or not, right? So you gotta be aware of those things so that you can break free of them. And I've known many people on both sides of the fence that had crappy childhoods and made a choice in their life to break the mold, to break away from it and be something different and be better, and have had great success. And I've known others who just use it as an excuse for mediocrity. That's my excuse to remain where I am. That's my excuse to be mediocre and to be average, because it takes less effort. That's not what we want. Number 8, procrastination. Okay, I think every single one of us has been guilty of this at one point or another. Maybe you were guilty of it today. And it is one of the most common causes of failure. And they call it old man procrastination. He stands within the shadow of every human being, waiting his opportunity to spoil one's chances of success. Most of us go through life as experiencing some kind of failures because we're waiting for the time to be right. Right? You're just it's gotta be right, or I'm gonna do this, or maybe it's not the right time, or you make excuses for the other person and you don't make that phone call, because they're gonna say this or they're gonna say that, and then next thing you know, it just didn't happen. So don't wait, because the time will never be just right in anything. It's we used to say that if you waited for the just the right time to get married and just the right time to have kids, you'd have people who are perpetually single and no kids ever, right? Because it's never the right time. Really, in most cases, it's never the right time to have kids. You never have your life in order enough. You never, you don't have your ideal financial situation to have kids. You don't have all these different things that are perfect in life in order to do them. So you just gotta do it. You just gotta step out in faith and do it. Lack of persistence. Oh man, this is a big one, right? You start off and you start trying things, you start doing things, and they don't always work out the way you want. And so most people are pretty good starters, but fairly poor finishers of things that we begin. And they're prone to give up the first signs of defeat. So that's why there's no substitute for persistence, because we know that we're not always going to meet with success from the get-go, and we have to persist. And you've heard the story of Edison and his 10,000 different attempts, and over and over and over and over, right? Because he is one of the most glaring examples of persistence. And the people who persist are the ones who overcome old man failure, right? You wear failure out, because failure cannot cope with persistence. All right, negative personality, number 10. Here's one you got to look at, right? There's no hope of success for the person who repels people through a negative personality. And you guys know people like this. You've come in contact with people like this. You got to make sure that you do not become that person at any time. Success comes through the application of power, and power is attained through the cooperative efforts of other people. You got to leverage the power of other people. You cannot do everything yourself. And if you have a negative personality, you will not be able to leverage that power of other people, because a negative personality does not induce cooperation in anybody else. So you always gotta be, have this great personality. And the book How to Win Friends and Influence People does a great job at expanding on that particular one. So take a look at that. All right, number 11, lack of controlled sexual urge. Now, when I first read about this, it wasn't something that I always thought about, right? How people can use, and using their words, transmutate your built-in sexual drives, your energies, towards your goals, towards your drive. And when you study the successful people in this world and throughout history, that's why in many cases you see a strong supportive woman by their side, because they're using almost that sexual energy, that sexual urge, which is the probably one of our number one driving factors as human beings. When you learn to transmutate it properly, when you learn to use it effectively and properly, the way that it was designed to be, and not all these different things that we as a society and as human beings have gone and perverted. And I mean, you hear stories of, you see people in life who have done this, and they're just stuck in this thing, right? Just almost like a drug addict of some kind. There's, for some reason, it holds people back if it's used wrong. Uncontrolled desire to obtain something for nothing. Man, what else can you call this? You can call this entitlement issues, right? That's kind of what most people in society are right now. I saw the craziest thing. There's this video on of this chick. Some of you may have seen it, and she was complaining that she was overweight because the government wouldn't give her more money, more government pay for her to be able to buy better foods, and all her cabinets are just filled with junk food and all these different things, right? And she's obese, and it's the government's fault because they're not giving her more money. And I mean, they were giving her like over $3,000 a month, something crazy, and she wanted more. And it was their fault. It's like, want something for nothing. And oh my gosh, like that's very few things irritate me so much, okay, as people like that, and that they believe that they have this entitlement issue, that they're going to have everything given to them, and if you have this mentality at all, you'll never be successful. You will fail. You will fail in different things that you go at. Yes, I agree. It is nuts. All right. Lack of a well-defined power of decision. Okay, men who succeed, or women, reach decisions promptly, and if they change them, those decisions, they do it very slowly. Okay, men who fail reach decisions, if at all, very slowly, and change them frequently and quickly. How many of you know people in your life, or how many of you are guilty of this one? You know, it's like the shiny object syndrome, right? And when I read this, I thought of several people. You know, they change their minds, they change decisions quickly and frequently, and there's no way that you can um, reach any level of success in any endeavor when you start off and you're going, and then you change your mind, you start something new, right? So you're always starting something new. So you never reach that next level of success. You never persevere. You never endure. And there's no way you're going to succeed like that. You're going to continue to fail. You'll just fail continually, right? Because it's you'll keep failing at every new thing that you start. I don't care if it's 15 things this year. You're gonna start. And indecision and procrastination are twin brothers. So you gotta watch out that those two don't get together. You gotta kill off the pair completely. All right. That way you can avoid failure. Number 14. This one's a bit controversial. Wrong selection in marriage or in a mate is a very, if not the most common cause of failure. Now, I'm going to disclaim here that I'm not telling you that maybe you should look at that right now. If you are married, I'm just saying if you're not married yet, you gotta make sure you take a close look at that. If you are married, you made a lifelong bond. Work it out. Okay, do not pervert the holy institution of marriage. Okay, because you're unwilling to work with each other. But it is, the relationship of marriage brings people intimately into contact, and unless the relationship is harmonious, failure is likely to follow. It's a form of failure that is marked by misery and unhappiness, destroying all signs of ambition. Okay, that's why, because if you're miserable, you can't have a zeal for life. You can't be excited about getting up. You can't be excited about what you're doing. If your partner isn't on the same page with you, and your dreams and goals are not being supported, and they're looking at it more like a burden because you're taking time and all these different things, man, how can you get excited about that? How can you be successful and stick with it? It's tough. And I'm blessed. I mean, my wife and I, we have very many things that we enjoy together, right? And there are things that I like to do that she either doesn't really have an interest in, or might be too dangerous, and so she doesn't necessarily want to do it, and I would freak out if she actually did it, and I wouldn't be having any fun because I like to do some kind of daring things sometimes, and I've been doing them since I was a teenager. But when it's somebody else there, and unless it's a guy friend, like I couldn't have my wife do some things that I do because I would just freak out. Some of the some of the mountain biking that I do and some of the things, it's just I'd be too worried that somebody would get hurt, and I've gotten hurt. So that's why. But we're free to do those things, to have our different things that we like to do, and to share in most things. And she doesn't really work in my business, but she supports me, and because there's I'm the one that has to do certain things, and even though she would like to help and offers to help, there's certain things that unfortunately only I can do in our business right now. All right, now let's see here. Yeah, for some reason that was out of the thing, but number 15 is overcaution. The person who takes no chances generally has to take whatever is left when others are through choosing. Overcaution is as bad as undercaution. Both are extremes and must be guarded against. Life itself is filled with different elements of chance, and you have to take those chances. Right? Now don't be undercautious like it says. Right? Don't make stupid decisions. But you have to take a little bit of risk. You have to get out there. It's like the aspiring real estate investor that I run into from time to time, and they're just stuck right on analysis paralysis, and they've never even made an offer because they get to that point. They get to that point. They're just too cautious. They won't even do it because they don't know what the outcome is going to be. They don't know what's on the other side of when they do that. They don't understand, what they have to lose or what they have to protect, right? What their safety nets are, how they can move forward and still be safe. Number 16, wrong selection of associates in business. Yeah, that's a big one. Most of the guys I know or people that I know that have created businesses and have had certain business successes have been around long enough to have had successes and failures. Excuse me. Almost all of them have had an experience by either having the wrong actual business associate or partner, or just trusting the wrong person in business, even if it wasn't somebody that was their quote unquote partner or business associate, somebody that was doing something for them in that business, or they had to rely on somebody to do something like a project manager or a realtor even. I mean, one of my partners has a terrible deal because he had an awesome deal and there was many investors involved, and the realtor that was kind of representing him put her name on the contract to try to squeeze him out, and now it's been in litigation for 2 years and $500,000 in attorney fees and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? How do you know? But ultimately it was the wrong selection in a business associate, right? So you gotta be real careful with that one. Even in your employers, okay? If you're just trying to get somewhere in your current position, in your current job, if that's where you want to stay, if that's where you want to go and want to grow, you got to make sure that you pick your employers well too, right? That the employer is somebody worth emulating. Because if not, you're going to be trying to emulate the wrong kind of person, the wrong thing. It's not going to get you where you want to go. Number 17 is superstition and prejudice, right? Superstition is nothing more than a form of fear, and it's also a sign of ignorance. Men who succeed keep their minds open and are afraid of nothing. And I like to live by a couple of principles, and it's a list of different principles, but there's two that I particularly kind of admonish people with, and that I took to myself. And one is always remain teachable. No matter the circumstance, no matter if the subject is doesn't necessarily appeal to your natures or to your sensibilities, remain teachable. Take in the information, look at it, give it a chance before you just automatically reject it. And once you have all the information, then make your decision, whether it's for you or whether it's not for you. I think too many people close themselves off to too many things because they think they're not going to agree with it. They think that it's not going to fit their moral compass, or they think it's not going to fit their desires or their needs or their wants or their tastes, right? So they automatically reject it, and it's a disservice to themselves because they could have potentially learned something. Even if they don't agree with it at the end, they could have also learned something. So always remain teachable, because as long as you remain teachable, there will be teachers willing and ready to teach you. Right? The saying, once the teacher is ready or the student is ready, the teacher shall appear. How can you expect to learn anything or to help or to have anybody willing to really pour any knowledge into you if you're not teachable? Secret societies don't do that. The different groups and organizations and the clubs. And I mean, once you get a mentor and you get to a certain level and you stop being teachable, that mentor is not going to want to teach you anymore, and they won't. And then the second one is always remain willing to accept change. So always remain teachable and always remain willing to accept change. Those are two things in life that you want to live by, because without change, there's no progress. And people fight against change a lot of times, if not most of the time. They get comfortable in these routines, they get comfortable in their little space, and they get comfortable in not going anywhere because they're not willing to accept change. Sometimes things have to change. In order for things in your life to change, things in your life have to change, right? You've heard all these silly little sayings. So you always have to be willing to accept change, including change within yourself, which is kind of what some of these things are about, right? Or some of these things that we're guilty of. We got to be willing to change those things. Number 18, the wrong selection of vocation. Man, that's a tough one, right? Nobody can really succeed in a line of work that they don't like. And the most essential step in the marketing of your own personal services is that you select an occupation into which you can throw yourself wholeheartedly. And that's tough sometimes, right? Because sometimes we get going a certain direction in life, and maybe we discover later on in life that that's not really what we enjoy. Or maybe we liked it at one time and now we don't. But it's comfortable, it's routine, it's what we know. It's like, man, I got bills to pay. I can't be going off and doing this new thing. I got responsibility. So we stay stuck in those things. And that's a problem. So you got to make sure that you choose something. And again, I guess I can say guilty of those things, because there was a period in my life where people ask me, well, what's your passion? What do you love to do? Like, what would you love to do? And all these different things. I couldn't really come up with an answer. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm good at various things, particularly sales. I was always somehow ended up back in sales. I would get in sales. I'd try to get out of sales, go do something else, end up back in sales. Go try to do something else, end up back in sales. Sell. And then, of course, later on, many years later, I found out and realized a couple of years ago by listening to Brian Tracy that everyone's a salesperson. And if you don't think you are, you're kidding yourself, and you're only holding yourself back. But we're always selling. The only difference is whether or not you're any good at it. All right. So, wrong selection of vocation. If you're unhappy where you are right now, it's okay. You understand that. You understand that a change needs to happen. But before you just make some change flippantly, figure out what it is that you can be passionate about, what it is that you can like, that you can pour yourself into. And not something that just because you think you can make a lot of money at it, or just because you think other people make a lot of money at it, that it's going to be the right fit for you. Because you will burn out. The money will not sustain you if you're miserable. I guarantee it. Number 19, lack of concentration of effort. What does that mean? Kind of goes back to the early one, kind of the jack of all trades, the seldom good at any of them, or jack of all trades, master of none. You got to concentrate all your efforts on one definite chief aim. And this was one that I struggled with I was struggling with this one before I even really understood it. Right, as an entrepreneur, you get started in business, you get started doing different things, and in many cases, you're taught to take the extra action and to take the opportunities. Right, so to say yes until you absolutely have to say no, and I kind of took on that philosophy without realizing that I misunderstood what it meant. And so I was taking on all these other opportunities and this opportunity and this opportunity and this opportunity and this opportunity. And pretty soon I was finding that I was stretched so thin that I couldn't really devote enough time in the day to any of those things. And then I felt like I was spinning my wheels and not getting things done and not being productive. And then when you're not productive, you're not getting things done and you're not making progress, that's when you start to really slip into all kinds of non-productive things, right? Because you feel worse about yourself, you feel less confident. And then when you're less confident, you can't go out and do those things, and it takes away from your ambition. It's just a nasty cycle, because we as human beings have to experience progress every day or every week in our lives towards a specific goal or chief aim that we have, in order for us to really be satisfied, to be happy, to be have a sense of fulfillment. That's even if we have a good relationship with our Savior and with our God, and your spiritual thing and everything is in check, but somehow you're not making progress in life and your goals and providing for your family a life that they deserve and that you want. Man, it's tough to really stay motivated after a while. If you don't have if you go long enough without wins, it takes it out of you. So you got to concentrate your effort. You got to figure out what one or two things that are related to each other so they can complement each other are you going to go after, and pour yourself into those things and eliminate everything else. And I had to learn that lesson myself. The habit of indiscriminate spending. like I don't even need to explain this one, but really the spendthrift cannot succeed, mainly because he stands eternally in fear of poverty. Form the habit of systematic savings by putting aside a definite percentage of your income away. Put it in the bank, put it in an account. I say we can do a different webinar on actual money matters and how I save, how I portion my savings into different accounts, how I teach my children to do it. Without money, one must take what is offered and be glad that he got it. You gotta have it. You can't have that indiscriminate spending. I know so many people like that. They go out, we go to dinner, we go to do something, and I know their financial situation, and all of a sudden they're buying a round of drinks for 5 or 6 people that I know that they can't afford, just so they can look to be a certain way or have a certain image. Like, the image is not worth it, because you're going to be stressed out about it later. Your wife is going to be angry, or whatever is going to happen. So you gotta know how to be a good steward of the money that you have. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You have to learn how to be a good steward of that money. 21, lack of enthusiasm. Obviously, if you go back to my earlier point where I said that everyone is a salesperson, everyone sells something every day, all day. They're selling or being sold. Now, if you believe that, and you should, and you understand that at its most basic form, sales is nothing more than a transfer of enthusiasm. And if you lack enthusiasm, you cannot be convincing. If you have enthusiasm, that's also contagious. And the person who has it and has that enthusiasm under control, not like acting like an idiot or anything, that person is generally welcome in any group of people. Have you seen a person like that? Have you experienced that person that has this controlled enthusiasm, right? And they just kind of carry themselves a certain way. They walk through the room. You don't necessarily know them, but you're almost glad that they're there, right? You almost feel a certain affinity towards that person just for no reason at all, because they've mastered this controlled enthusiasm about who they are, about their life. When you have that, it exudes confidence, and people are attracted to confidence and enthusiasm. So if you don't have that quality right now, then we need to work on achieving that, on building that. And just like everything else, you can through the power of autosuggestion, if nothing else, get yourself to that state. Number 22 is intolerance. A person who's closed-minded on any subject seldom gets ahead. Intolerance means that one has stopped acquiring knowledge. This kind of ties into what I was saying about always remaining teachable. And the most damaging form of intolerance are those connected with religious, racial, or political differences of opinion. I disagree with a lot of things, and it's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be intolerant of another person. Again, especially if you want to be an agreeable person, and because only agreeable people move ahead in life. Number 23 is intemperance. And, probably the most damaging forms of intemperance that keeps people from success or causes their failure is intemperance connected with eating habits, with alcohol, with sexual activities, overindulgence in any of those particular things are absolutely fatal to success. Number 24, your inability to cooperate with others. And this is starting to sound familiar, right? More people lose their positions or big opportunities in life because of their inability to cooperate with others. They want to be an island. They want to be their own success. They want to be all these different things, and it's just not possible. And this is probably the biggest causer of failure than all these reasons combined. And no well-informed business person or leader will tolerate this quality. Number 25. Possession of power that was not acquired through self-effort. Now, that's just kind of a fancy way of pointing to some of the people that you've heard stories about, who win the lottery and then lose everything, or sons and daughters of wealthy people who inherit money that they didn't earn, and next thing you know, they're in rehab. They kill themselves on the side of the road. They lose everything, and you know what I mean. It's just because they haven't. They never learned what that was like, what it is to accomplish it, what it is to reach for, what it is to learn to become that person, right? And that's the thing. If you're not where you want to be in life right now, financially, specifically, is because you haven't learned and haven't become the person that you need to become in order to be able to handle the responsibility and what it takes to handle those finances and those successes when they do come. And the only way that you really truly learn that is by going through it, and the pain and the trial and the understanding of what it took to generate that. That's why I say that the most successful people on earth, if you took everything from them, took all their fortunes, all their property, all their everything, they'd have it all back within a couple of years, right? Because they learned how to do it. They learn what it takes to do that, so they can replicate it. You can take all this stuff away from them, but you can never take away the knowledge and the person or people that they became on that road. Number 26, intentional dishonesty. Man, how many of you know people like this, or have known people like this, or have been intentionally dishonest yourselves? I mean, there really is no substitute for honesty. One may be temporarily dishonest by force or circumstance, or which they have no control without permanent damage, but there really is no hope for a person who is dishonest by choice. Sooner or later, that person's deeds will catch up to them, always. I mean, any of you have kids of any age who are old enough to get themselves into trouble, particularly teenagers. Every single time my stepson's done something stupid, sometimes it happens right away, and sometimes it takes me a few days or a week. But his mother and I always find out. It always comes up, and it's not because we search for it. It just comes up, just like all of a sudden. Oh man, like look at this. This is interesting. This bit of information that I just came across, like those dishonest deeds always come up, and you're going to pay for it by your loss of reputation, perhaps even your liberties, depending on what you're doing in the business place. Now, I know all of you here don't suffer from this, but you've probably ran into people like this. You guess not only not be that yourself, but you got to stay away from those people. Number 27, egotism and vanity. Those qualities serve as red lights which warn others to keep away. So they are really fatal to success. Because nobody likes an egotistic or vain person. And that almost ties into 24 because they're enabled to cooperate with others. They want everybody to cooperate with them. They want everybody to think how great they are. So egotism and vanity, success killers. Number 28, guessing instead of thinking. How many of you know people like this? I've known some. Guess instead of thinking. They're too indifferent or lazy to acquire facts with which to think accurately. And they prefer to act on opinions created by guesswork or snap judgments. And though you can't build a foundation on stuff like that. Eventually that person will fail in their endeavors. Number 29, lack of capital. Of course, this one's kind of obvious. It's a common cause of failure among those who are starting out in business for the first time, because without sufficient reserves of capital to absorb shocks of different mistakes that people are going to make and carry them over until they have established a reputation, they may not ever get that chance. That's why they say most new businesses fail within the first 18 months. Because they raise money, they're going, and then they're undercapitalized. And one of the things in the 10x rule that Grant Cardone says, if you're estimating a certain amount of money that's going to take you to start and run your business, you're more than likely underestimating it. You got to 10x it. You got to multiply it by 10. That's how much extra money, how much extra effort, how much extra time and sweat and tears it's going to take to make that successful. And number 30, man, I don't know why it's not coming up in these slides, or it's cutting it off, is for you guys to name any particular cause of failure from which you have suffered. Okay, write something down, something that I didn't cover that has caused you to fail at something. If it's not on this list or somehow associated with something on this list, write it down. What is it? What was it? What did you learn from it? And take an account of these things. Okay. And now, of course, I have to get this last one in for me. The wrong insurance for your real estate investing needs. It can be a significant cause of failure. In case you have a loss, in case something happens. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. That was just, most of you have heard me many times before and gone through many of my presentations and webinars about insurance. You know what I do, and how I'm passionate about helping my real estate investors. And here's what I'm going to do. Like I promised, I'm going to give you my 30-second elevator speech. So as kind of an example of, if you guys want to hear it. Well, let me get a show of hands first. How about that? So I don't bore you guys with that. Anybody raise your hand if you want to hear it. If you do, I'll go ahead and do it. If not, then I'll spare you. Yes? Okay. All right. So particularly the exercise that we did last night, or part of um, uh, the Snap networking exercise, is that you say who you are. You know, you're clear about who you are. You basically give your 30-second elevator speech, and you then tell people what you're looking for, what you need. Now, that's not something that you would do. That last part is not something that you would do necessarily if you're just kind of in a networking meeting, you're socializing, you're at a, social reception or something like that. You give your 30-second elevator speech, and then you ask the other person what they do. That's typically what you would do. You wouldn't go into, okay, and I need this and I'm looking for this. Okay, that's more of of you want to leave the person hooked so that they ask you those questions, generally speaking. So otherwise you're gonna look too needy, and not very sensitive to who they are. You want them to ask. But in situations where everybody knows that that's what's happening and that they're going to get the opportunity to do the same, then it can be very, very powerful. So my name is Ivan Oberon, and I help my clients avoid financial hardship by providing them custom insurance products for all their real estate investments. I also help my clients grow their wealth by offering them investment opportunities secured by real estate. And what I'm looking for specifically are other like-minded real estate investors who I can add value to by giving them education and access to products designed specifically by real estate investors for real estate investors, because we understand the specific needs and unique things that the real estate investor needs. I'm also looking for investors who want to get a great rate of return on their money by investing in turnkey cash flow properties, or who want to flip their money multiple times a year and consider becoming one of our money partners. So how can I help you? So that's I don't even know if it's 30 seconds. I've never timed it. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that it's pretty clear. It's pretty concise. It's pretty much to the point. I sound like I have experience in that. Like I've done it before. So that's kind of what you guys want to develop is that's my identity. That's my persona, right? I'm a real estate investor ultimately, but I never said, you don't want to necessarily say, oh, well, what do you do? Well, I'm an insurance guy, and I invest in real estate. Like, no, I never said that. I told you what I do and how I do it. And and I think it's interesting. And if you were to stop it right there, right? If I were just stop that I help my clients avoid financial hardship, okay, that's pretty powerful. And then I also help my clients grow their wealth. I think that's also pretty powerful. And both of those things are in the same industry, because all the insurance products are all specifically for real estate investors, of which I am one. So I understand those needs. And then I'm also catering to other real estate investors, and then that gives them confidence of knowing, okay, well, I know how to mitigate these losses and these risks. So maybe there's added safety involved in there, or value involved there. All right. Very good insight. Different levels of what you can do to hold back. There are a few that hit home. All right. I'm glad. Direct but not arrogant. All right, thank you. I and I'm only judging by the number of we have these cards. Also, they're See Me cards, and on there, they're kind of like big index cards, and it says "See Me," and everybody has one in the table, and with you listening to the other person, if they said something that you were interested in, you can check it like, I'm your solution, I have influence on, or I have access to this or that, and then you put your contact information, and you can hand this card over to the person who just got done speaking, and everybody has 3 minutes total is what it is. So you speak, you give your thing, and then basically it's open for people to ask you questions, and then after 3 minutes you switch. But I came away with 5 of them, and so I think that's pretty good. I think I was able to drive my point home pretty well. So I was happy about that, because I've changed it, and this was the first real time that I got to use it in multiple times for a purpose. So I was kind of stoked. So anyway, guys, that's it. That is my presentation for tonight. I hope some of these did hit home to you. Maybe a lot of them did. Go through them, look at them, see which ones of these you need to change, and go after it. If you need anything from me, to Ivan at nreinsurance.com, specifically real estate and investment related. I'm happy to help you there. That is it. Any questions? Man, I got kind of tired all of a sudden. Any questions, comments? And that's gonna be it. I'm gonna go take care of the rest of my evening. And I appreciate you guys being here with me once more. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll catch you next week, and have a good night.